Hello, all you degenerates who want to make money on fantasy football and football in general. I am Cameron Lawrence, and today we are going to be breaking down the NFC North win odds, playoff odds, MVP odds for different players, and we're just going to be discussing what we think win totals are going to be, what bets have value, looking at the DraftKings Sportsbook, and we're just going to kind of go from there. Just kind of play it by ear. We'll see how it all goes. But it should be a ton of fun. So the first team we're going to start with is actually the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota right now has a projected win total in Vegas of 9 wins. So that is their over-under. Minnesota is also plus 275 to win the division this season. So if we look through their schedule, not too shabby. Got a couple difficult away games if we look at it. At Philly is a tough one. At Miami could potentially be tough. At Buffalo, at Green Bay as always. But other than that, not too crazy of a schedule. Now, I just want to start going through, and then we'll kind of get to more of these, what we're betting on after we go through their win totals. For Minnesota, for MVP, we'll kind of talk about at the end. Kirk Cousins is plus 5,000 odds. He could be a dark horse. And Justin Jefferson is plus 15,000 odds to win MVP. Obviously, very big long shot, especially not being a quarterback. But if we jump right in, I'm looking at the Minnesota schedule. We'll just go game by game. Game number 1, Green Bay Packers. Minnesota's been sneaky with these games. They always sneak one, usually at home. They don't win in Lambeau a ton. So I got them beating Green Bay in this first game. Probably another high scoring 34-31 point affair. I think Kevin O'Connell's going to open up this offense. I think there's going to be a lot of scoring. They're probably going to be an over team. I don't think they fixed everything in their secondary, so they're going to give up points as well. At Philadelphia, this is what I'm going to call a 50-50 game. And so we'll kind of come back to it. We'll highlight these 50-50 games. I'm going to take them losing right now at Philadelphia. Prime time, their first prime time game with Kevin O'Connell. So that's kind of what I have there. Next, we have against Detroit at home. I have them winning this one. It's obviously going to be a close game playing Detroit. So that puts the Vikings right now at 2-1. Then Vikings travel to London to play New Orleans. I am going to take the Vikings in New Orleans. I think they're going to barely squeak by. I just don't have the faith in Jameis. But I would consider this one another 50-50 game. I then have the Vikings coming back and beating Chicago at home. I think Chicago is terrible. They are fighting for the first overall pick right now. So Vikings are 3-0 in division right now. 4-1 in all. They then travel to at Miami. I have them winning this one as well. I think it's going to be another high-scoring game. But starting off the Vikings 5-1, pretty hot. But I think it gets tough, and I think they lose some games coming up. Now they are playing against Arizona. D-Hop's had 1 week back. I got Arizona coming to Minnesota, beating them off the bye week, putting them at 5-2. Definitely these last 2 games, another 50-50 games. So as you can see, there's a lot of games for Minnesota where it could go both ways. At Washington, kind of a redemption game here. I have Minnesota going out there and winning that one. But then 2 back-to-back away games, I have them losing to Buffalo, and I don't personally think this game's going to be close. So we got the Vikings at 6-3 right now. They come home and play Dallas. I have the Vikings losing this one as well, putting them at 6-4. And then on Thanksgiving, the short week, losing to New England, a 3-game skid right here, losing 4 of the last 5, putting them back at 6-5. I think that's kind of what the Vikings do, as they kind of get your hopes up and they slide back. Then I got them beating New York. Putting them at 7-4 or 7-5. I have them losing to Detroit 7-6, beating Indianapolis, beating New York. I think those are games that they should win. I think they're games that they will win. Indianapolis is going to be a tough team, but I think the Vikings are going to outplay them at this one. Putting the Vikings at 9-6, I think. Yep, 9-6. Then I have them losing to Green Bay, 9-7, and beating Chicago for a 10-7 record, which I really don't think is that out of the realm. So if we look at the Vikings line now, Vikings are 9 is their over-under for wins. So I would take the over on that. I would assume, you give them another loss to Indianapolis, New Orleans, one of those teams on here, and they get 9, you have a push. That's not the worst thing in the world. So that's where I have the Vikings right now. We'll transition over to who I think the worst team in this division is going to be, and that's the Chicago Bears. Bears just been a tough team to watch. They have no talent on the outside. I feel so bad for Justin Fields. He feels like they're sacrificing his NFL career right now. And like I said earlier, this is a massacre. They are not looking great. They will be fighting for a first overall pick. So I have the Bears going loss versus San Francisco, loss at Green Bay. I do have them coming back and beating Houston. I think a home game against a bad team. I think they can sneak one out there. Going into New York, I'm going to take a loss there at Minnesota. I already said that's a loss, so it's going to be a loss. So right now they're 1-4. Primetime game, Thursday Night Football versus Washington. I have them beating Washington in this one. I don't trust Carson Wentz to win in primetime. I don't trust Justin Fields to win in primetime. But I think that they're going to sneak one out here. At New England, at Dallas, 2 losses in a row, putting them at 2-6 versus Miami, a loss. I think they sneak out a home win against Detroit, putting them at 3-7. Going into Atlanta, I'm going to give them a loss in this one. I don't think they're going to win many road games. And we're going to be very hard pressed to see Justin Fields winning home games. At New York, same reasoning. And then another loss against Green Bay. So I have them right now at 2-11. Playing Philly off a bye week, I kind of feel like this is one they're going to sneak away at. So I'm going to give them 3 wins here. Let me make sure it's 3. Did I say 3 right? Houston, Washington, Philly. Destroyed against Buffalo. Loss against Detroit at home, and loss against Minnesota. So yeah, this puts the Bears at 3-14. If you want to argue 2 more wins against Atlanta and New York, that's fine. And the other New York, that puts them at 6. Their line is 6.5. I just don't know how you can say that you want to put them higher when Darnell Mooney is your only weapon on the outside next to Velus Jones. It's not going to work out. We saw it last year with Atlanta when Calvin Ridley left. They had Kyle Pitts, and that was it. And I guess they had Cordell Patterson, but the offense just really stalled out really quickly. So I have Chicago at 3-14, and I am slamming the under of 6.5. Next, we have the Lions. The Lions are a team that the public is really getting high on right now. People are loving the 6.5. I've heard people saying, ooh, shot in the dark to make the playoffs this year. I don't see it happening personally. I still think they're a defense away from it. Their offense is definitely coming along. They're going to give a lot of teams a run for their money. They got a lot of weapons. Obviously, I think they're similar to the Saints in the fact they're a quarterback away on offense. Good offensive line, good defense, but just a quarterback away. So Lions start out playing against Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia is going to really eat on against this NFC North. So I think they beat Lions at home. They're going to run the ball all over them. Then I have them Lions beating Washington. I have them losing in Minnesota. This Seattle game I think is going to be actually really interesting. And I really think that the Lions are going to win just because they're going to have more fight in this game. I don't think Seattle's going to be very inspired by week 4, continuing with Drew Lock. And so I'm going to give the Lions a 2-2 start. Going into New England is always going to be tough, so I'm going to give them the loss there. Off the bye week, back into Dallas, I'm going to give them the loss there, putting them at 2-4. Playing against Miami at home. This is a tough one for me. Another one of those 50-50s. I think they lose against Miami, but then I think they surprise and take one from Green Bay, going 3-5. I had them losing in Chicago, but I think they go into New York, and I think they win this one, giving them 4 wins, going 4-6 right now. A loss against Buffalo. Buffalo might be a 14-3 team this year, but then a win against Jacksonville, bringing their total up to 5-7. I don't remember. I think I said they beat the Vikings here, 6-7. And then we go down a little bit more at New York. Nope. At Carolina, yes. At Chicago, yes. I mean, they could potentially. No, I had them losing them against Minnesota. So I got them at 7-9, right? Or no, 7-10. Over under 6.5. It's exciting. I would stay away. I would not touch. I know I just predicted them to beat that. But Seattle, I know Carolina's not great, but in Carolina, in New York, these are games that they have to win in order to hit this mark. I would stay away. I wouldn't bet the under, but I would stay away. And I don't think they're going to win the division, especially with a team like Green Bay. Minnesota is my favorite to win the division, but I do think a team like Green Bay could take it. So I had Minnesota at 10-7, Chicago at 3-14, and Detroit at 7-10. So starting with the Packers, we have a loss against Minnesota. In Minnesota, come back, and I think they destroy Chicago. I would take whatever the over is on this line. In Tampa Bay, I think it's Brady's turn to win these games. So I'm going to take Brady here, going 1-2 to start. But I do think Green Bay takes a little bit longer to start. I have them beating New England at home, beating New York, beating New York. 3 nice home games. If you win the first one, I guess that second one is in London, so it's not technically a home game, but I'm still going to take them there. So I got them at 4-2 right now through 6 weeks. In Washington, I'm actually going to take this one as a surprise loss here. I think they're coming back from London, but you got the adrenaline. You're like, all right, we got to come back. We got to work hard. We got to hit it. We got to play this game. So you come in, you play this game hard, and then you got to travel back out to Washington, and that's your letdown game. So that's where I have them letting down 4-3. I don't have them beating Buffalo in Buffalo, 4-4. I have them beating Detroit. Or no, I just said that I didn't have them beating Detroit. So 4-5. I have them beating Dallas, beating Tennessee. So that puts them at 6-5. I then have them beating Philly, beating Chicago. Puts them at 8-5 going into the bye. Not a bad place to be. But then I have them losing to the Rams, 8-6. I then have them beating Miami, 9-6. Beating Minnesota, 10-6. Beating Detroit, 11-6. The Packers over under right now is 11. I would take the under if I was going to take anything, because that has them beating Dallas, beating Tennessee. A couple tough games, beating New England. 11's really high. It's going to be hard to see what they do on offense. I think Aaron Jones has a long shot at being a offensive player of the year due to receiving work. I think that Jefferson has a chance of that as well. He could see Cooper Kupp-like totals, maybe not that great. But if I'm betting the division, I know I had the Packers finishing higher, but the Packers are -175 with the Vikings at +275. I think this is going to be a very tight race at top. I would take the Vikings at +275. I'm going to be placing money on this. I think that's a much closer thing. Let's go over our totals again. Vikings at 9. I'm taking the over on that. Packers at 11. I'm probably staying away, but I would take the under. Detroit, I'm definitely staying away, but I would take the over. If I had to take it in Chicago, I would slam the under. So 2 confident ones are Minnesota and Chicago. Detroit and Green Bay I'm kind of staying away from. Vikings, I'm definitely taking the over, or I'm taking them to win the division. If I'm picking a division winner, the reason I'm not taking Green Bay is I'm not going to lay 175 to win 100. And then if we look back, we have some of the odds to win. Oh my goodness, where'd it go? Odds to win the conference, odds to win the Super Bowl, odds on favorites to win the conference. Packers are actually tied for second at plus 450. Vikings plus 200, Detroit plus 6,000, Chicago plus 7,000. I'm not feeling great about any of those. So I would stick away from picking a conference winner for all of them. I lost my... There it is. Sorry about that. I just lost where I was at. Going back, division winners we already talked about. To make the playoffs, I would bet on Minnesota because they're at, I think, plus 100. I think that's a free bet, pretty much. I think they make the playoffs. I think they sneak in. I don't think, though, it's going to be like last year where we have 3 teams in the West if Trey Lance plays all year. I don't think we're going to have multiple teams out of the South. Maybe New Orleans, but I think the Vikings are better than New Orleans. Not multiple teams in the East. So I think there's a good chance the Vikings make the playoffs this year at 9-7. And then when we're looking at Offensive Player of the Year, I think this is where it kind of gets interesting. Aaron Rodgers is up there for MVP. I wouldn't take it 3 times in a row is tough. A lot of voter fatigue, not touching MVP. But Offensive Player of the Year, Justin Jefferson plus 2,800. Not a bad bet. I really like Aaron Jones at plus 4,000. You know, if you're like, I want to throw down a long shot, $10 to win 400. It's kind of a fun thing just to watch all year. And my other one, Dalvin Cook plus 2,500. Not a bad bet either. I think he's going to score a ton of touchdowns. That positive touchdown regression is coming in quickly. I wouldn't touch DeAndre Swift at plus 6,000. I think those odds are just too far. So the 3 I'd be looking at are Justin Jefferson plus 2,800, Dalvin Cook plus 2,500, and Aaron Jones at plus 4,000. The receiving work has to go somewhere, and traditionally it goes to the running back. And we saw Aaron Jones get a ton of targets in the NFC divisional game against the 49ers. Last thing I want to touch on is the dark horse for MVP. I do think Kirk has a chance if things go right. You know, this bet could look terrible, but I do really think that things could go right. So with that, make sure you check out our latest podcast. We're going to start doing our divisional breakdowns from a fantasy aspect coming forward. But I'll continue going week by week, talking about these divisions, talking about where you should be putting your money if you're putting money down, what we're thinking for win totals. With that, deuces, and we'll see you guys next time.